let's start with the game. As now, despite no Jim Harbaugh for the third year in a row, Michigan really, I mean, I know it was a close game, but it does feel kind of like Michigan dominated this game. Or at least controlled it. I mean, they never trailed. When they had to push it to 6 to extend the lead. Just a tough, I think it was like 13 plays, 5 or 6 minutes, ends in a field goal. They seal it with a pick. I'm not saying that it's not like last year or anything, but to be without your head coach, to be limited in some of the way, remember, what did we say? Like on the show the other day, I was like, let's just apply the KISS method. Like, Michigan should win this game because they're better. Ohio State's worse, but you made a very great counter argument for maybe why the Buckeyes were going to get it done. And none of it came to fruition. And now for the third year in a row, it is Michigan clearly better than Ohio State. I mean, it goes back to what we said last year. They just out-toughed them, out-physicaled them. Now this is a tougher Ohio State team, but at the end of the day, they still got kind of beat up.
I see they did a little bit, but I thought they matched the physicality for Michigan pretty well. And like they made it really difficult for Michigan at times. Like Michigan went forward a lot on those 4th downs. Felt like they had to earn every single yard. Like the whole notion of like game of inches, like that's what I felt like I was watching. Like it was tough for Michigan. It was tough for Ohio State. Like I felt like you saw 2 of the best teams in America slugging it out. Like, I don't walk away from that game saying, like, oh, man, like, Ohio State got bitched there. Ohio State was not physical. Ohio State still has a lot of issues where, this is going to continue to be a problem going forward in this game versus Michigan. I kind of sit back and say, man, like, that was a great football game. Ohio State matched that physicality. It came down, in my opinion, to 2 turnovers. Like, in a well-fought game on the road in a great environment with 2 elite football teams, it came down to Ohio State had an early interception that resulted in a touchdown, and then Ohio State threw an interception on the last possession of the game that ended it right there. That's it. Like, that's all it is. And like, it was for how big of a game it is and all the mindset of, all the topics we can get into. I just thought it was a really clean, good, elite football game that Ohio State had 2 turnovers. Michigan had none. And that's the big difference.
Yeah, I guess it is interesting, though, where, Ohio State won this game 15 out of 16 years. And now 3 years later after that streak ends, you kind of sound like you're head patting Ohio State a little bit. Like, it shouldn't be like, well, yeah, I thought Ohio State actually hung with Michigan. Well, of course they should, right? I mean, those should be the margins. I think it's
also
hard.
Michigan's also closed the gap. Like, Ohio State is the better blue chip ratio T, but Michigan has closed the gap. Like that roster may have more NFL guys than anyone else in the country. So like that's part of the equation too.
Yeah, look, let's be clear. I don't really care about blue chip ratio. I care about blue chip ratio in terms of range finding, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're in that top 15, there's no. It's not like some insurmountable gap or whatever. Yes. And Michigan's on a bit of the low end of the spectrum, or Ohio State's on a bit of the higher end. But we still know. You can clearly see how many players from both that Michigan offensive and defensive line are going to be in the NFL. And they're doing it without center going down. CJ says Ryan Day lost because he's the worst QB. Those teams are 100% even match. But that's exactly what I said the other day. That's the KISS method, right? If the 2 teams are even and one quarterback is clearly better than the other, you go with that team. And that's without like JJ being like overwhelmingly good. Sub 150 yards passing again. Look at James Tony, $2 super chat, share snaps, his friends, help grow the channel. Hell yeah, hit like and subscribe. Thank you.
Dude, JJ played well though. JJ was some of the throws that he made was some of the stuff that I was raving on this channel beginning of the season, like, holy crap, like this dude took a massive step in the right direction. The past 2 weeks, it was a mixture of, he was banged up. The offensive line couldn't figure it out versus Penn State. That's why they ran the ball so much. It's kind of like just win and survive. Last week was a little bit ugly, but overall, like that kid is really taking his game to another level this year. And I thought he was excellent, 16 to 20 for 150. And a touchdown, which was, I don't know how the hell he got that football in there.
Yeah.
JJ McCarthy's a beast. When he's playing at a high level and when he's healthy, which after they get through Iowa, they're going to have some time for that entire offense to get healthy. He's he's one of the better ones in the country.
If they get through Iowa, if they get through, dude, Iowa should be 11-1. I know you think that was a fair catch of that punt return. I still think that's bullshit. I think they won that game. Iowa should be 11-1. Instead, they'll have to settle for 10-2. But either way, they're going toe-to-toe with Michigan. Okay. One more big picture thought, then we'll move on. Does this mean anything for Ryan Day for you? I mean, Ohio State fans, we know what it means to that fan base. He got to be beside himself. This now, look, fool me once. What is it? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And then something about fool me thrice. I don't know. I believe that.
Fool me twice, your ass is fired. Listen, I think they would be crazy to get rid of Ryan Day. This dude is one of the best coaches. He was a field goal away from winning a national championship last year. They would have done to TCU what Georgia did to TCU. I get the frustration of not beating your big-time rival. Like I saw a couple former Ohio State Buckeyes tweeting at, it's time to move on. You can't beat Michigan. That's what you're being paid all these millions of dollars to do. I get that, but who are you going to replace him with? Who are you going to bring in that's going to do a better job? You're going to bring Urban back? Is that the move? Guys, who are you truly going to bring back to take over? So, and then we're going to get to a little bit later about A&M and that job vacancy, and it's not going to be Mark Stoops. Does Ryan Day just kind of say, screw this, I want to get out of here, and he jumps to College Station? I don't know. Or does he go to the NFL? Do we see the two best coaches in the Big Ten leave to go to the NFL after the season, him and Jim Harbaugh?
Look, I don't know about Ryan Day leaving, but Ryan Day being fired conversations are patently absurd. That's just an emotional conversation. That's all it is. And look, to Brett Roquemore's point here, to counter T-Bob, Michigan dominated Ohio State last 2 games. This year was really close, and OSU was no longer on ice skates. That's true. I do find it kind of crazy how much this series has changed in just 3 years, and that's kind of how we talk about it. It's well, at least Ohio State, looked like they could hang this year. But the point is, Ohio State's still not far off. You got Ryan Day's 56-7 or something crazy. I
think he's undefeated versus every team in that conference besides Michigan.
All 7 losses are to ranked teams. They've never lost an unranked game. If you fire him, you're insane. The question is, would he leave or not? All right. And for Michigan, good on you, man. Looks like you're going to be Big Ten champs 3 times in a row. Absolutely incredible. Don't know what the future holds for Harbaugh and company either, but a real national championship threat.
What does that do in your mind for Michigan, who we've kind of, and we'll move on after this, who has not had the schedule, has had the eyeball test clearly checked off for quite some time. Now you got to win versus Penn State, which, how I feel about Penn State. No.
UJ's still number one. UJ's still number one.
No, I'm not even talking about UJ 1. I'm talking about what does that win yesterday do for you in the thoughts of Michigan now being good enough in your mind to compete with Georgia this year if they do face in playoff or national championship?
Well, I always thought they were good enough. It's just that somewhere along the line, I used to think they should be favored.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, all that flipped. So it's not I don't think I think they still can. I think I think a little lack of dynamism is still going to hurt them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they could maybe get it done. Remember, Aaron, not to scare all you Dogs fans, but they made a beat UGA period in practice. Remember,
they did
very famously. They did beat Ohio State, and look what happened. Now they do beat UGA, and Jim Harbaugh's coming back out the tunnel now. Regular season over, suspension served.